You have to put the enemy in the track record you've established with God. You don't let, just because something shows up that you never dealt with before, you have to have that thing on the inside that rises up and say, wait a second. I might be facing you for the first time. But I've killed a lion and I've killed a bear, David said. You rise up and you go, wait a second. I might not have dealt with you before, but I've dealt with your brothers. I dealt with fear and anxiety. I dealt with panic attacks. I've dealt with poverty. I've dealt with attacks in my physical body, and God restored me every single time. You listening to me? But listen, if you don't put the enemy in the right category, then the enemy tries to overtake you in your mind. Goliath had them convinced that they weren't connected to God. He had them convinced that they were connected to Saul, a mere man. Powerless. And you've got to start declaring the outcome before the battle starts. Listen, 1 Samuel 17, we're back there again, verse 40. Please, don't disconnect now. Then he took a staff in his hand and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones. You know the story. And he drew near to the Philistine. He didn't wait for the Goliath to come to him. He drew near to the Philistine. So the Philistine came and began drawing near to David, and the man who bore his shield went before him. He's got a little guy there with a shield next to him. Verse 42. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him. Just like the enemy tries to do to you. Who do you think you are? The enemy will come and whisper in your mind, I know what you're really like behind closed doors. Yeah, everybody at church thinks you're so great, but I know you. And you start going, yeah. What you should do is shut up. I don't talk to you. He disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and good looking. So the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? Yeah, pretty much. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods, but his gods have no power. And the Philistine said to David, come to me and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. And the enemy says to you, oh, God's not going to rescue you this time. Yeah, he healed you the last time, but this one's much worse. Oh yeah, he provided for you the last time, but this time you're on your own. Then David said to the Philistine, now listen to these words, because here's where the real battle was fought. And David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you, oh my God, that we would respond like this. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you, take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines. And when I'm done with you, I'm going to go after the rest of them, and I'm going to give them to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there's a God in Israel. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. Come on, how could you just sit there? Bottom line is this, when we get angry enough at our enemies, the devil and all he does to us, then we become equipped to do battle. But remember, the battle is always won with our words before we ever get to the battlefield. David declared who Goliath was. You and I need to declare that the enemy is only a roaring lion. His teeth have been pulled out by Jesus in the resurrection. All he can do is roar. God has given us the ability. Where do you think we get anger from? It's misdirected because of the fall. It's misdirected because of sin in our life. But the ability to become angry comes from God when he created us. To be used for righteous anger and righteous indignation, to stand up for what the word says, to stand up for all that's godly, and to come against everything that's ungodly, that's tried to pollute our families, to pollute our children, to come against our health and our finances, our marriages. God's given us the ability to get angry so that we'll use our authority against the enemy and not roll over and play dead. He wants to win through us. Pick up your sword. Get on your knees and fight. Pray. Submit to God. Resist the enemy, and you watch him flee. Are you listening to me?